Welcome back to Zangeki no Reginleiv, and before I do anything, I'm going to head into the foraging menu, because I need some new equipment. Well, don't really need, but would like to show off some extra equipment. So I'm going to go ahead and forge Thor's bow, which that'll be something I can use for Frey later. And over on the right side, let's go for the lightning flash bow for Freya. I actually don't particularly like this weapon, but I might as well show it off. Now, you'll notice that some weapons have multiple branches on them. You have to complete both weapons from the previous tier in order to get the option to forge them, which is why I had the crystals to forge that other weapon, but it wouldn't let me do it. So I would have to forge, I think that's Freya's greatsword, in order to get access to that other weapon. For now, though, we're going to go ahead and adjust Freya's equipment a bit, namely equipping those weapons that I just made. So we're going to go ahead and equip the level 2 Ice Bullet Staff. The accuracy is worse, and the mana consumption is the same, and the damage value is a little lower. But it fires at a much faster pace, so I think it's a pretty fair trade-off. As long as you use it as like a mid-range to close to mid-range weapon, you're fine. Now the damage on this bow, the lightning flash bow, is actually really high. Like compared to the homing bow, which does 65 damage for each shot it lands, while the lightning flash bow does about 300 damage for each shot it lands. Of course, you can have up to 4 shots at once with homing bow, but you need to either lock onto different parts of a single enemy or just individual enemies for the smaller ones. You'll see what the trade-off is for the lightning flash bow in a little bit, and finally we don't have a cutscene at the start of a battle. So, this is where the camera can kind of mess you up again. Well, this one isn't so bad. It's another one coming up later that can throw you off. So it's going to make you go to the side, because invisible walls. They don't want your Valkyrie character falling off a cliff, even though it would absolutely survive. So, you can slide down here. And the giants have already appeared ahead of me. So, let's go ahead and see what this bow can do. And I got spun around by the camera. This is the one that I was warning you about earlier. So, you should really wait until that happens before trying to engage the giants. Or try and get behind the giants and then have the camera switch. So here's the problem with this bow. You don't really aim it. It just kind of does its own thing. It's incredibly powerful, but you basically have to use it at close range, otherwise you're not really going to hit anything. See, that one just went straight into the ground. Also, every arrow I shoot takes up a fair amount of mana. Like, I'm almost completely drained of it right now. So, I'm going to have to switch from my bow to my sword and get a little physical with these guys. Now I'll just have to gather up some extra mana, so not mana crystals, just mana for spellcasting. So I can show you the difference between the level 1 Ice Bullet staff, which we had before, and the level 2 Ice Bullet staff, which I have now. The weapon delay on the sword attacks is usually pretty short, but still, you gotta be careful not to swing the remote or just attack too fast, otherwise you'll end up with inputs not registering. And there you just saw the advantage of the staff, which is its rapid fire rate. Now, it kind of scatters more than the other ones, which is why its accuracy rating is lower. But if you're close enough to the targets, I mean, these are pretty big targets, I think it's safe to say. So then you don't have to worry about the spray being too wide, you don't have to worry about the arc of it going through the air and trying to predict where it'll land, because depth perception can be difficult sometimes. So let's say you have one of these medium giants distracted by the soldiers, he's holding still, so you can break his weapon and get earth crystals out of it, and then just break off one of his arms. Thing to be careful though is because it's firing faster, you're going to burn through your mana faster. So, gotta be conscious of that and remember to keep switching back to your sword. just every now and then because you generally regain mana pretty fast, in case you've noticed. Usually I would go for the decap on these guys, but it's hard to do that with a staff that has arcing shots, and my bow is going to be absolutely no health for that, so I just went for the straight up kill on this one. Although I did get some water crystals out of it for severing the one arm. So yeah, the swords with Freya, with some exceptions, are mainly just there so you can get mana to use your other two weapons. Whereas with Frey, his swords and his other melee weapons are more stilted toward damage, so it's a lot easier to take down enemies quickly and effectively. And this is how bad the aim on this weapon is. I think that hits. I'm not really sure. I don't think we'll ever know. But we're starting to see more and more and more of these medium-range giants. And not to spoil anything, but in the coming videos, they're going to get bigger. I'm pretty sure the villagers got that one and not me. I am definitely switching that bow out the next time I take Freya on a mission. Of course I say that, but I'm probably going to forget. You know what, I'm going to put a post-it note on my TV saying, remember to switch Freya's bow. Muraga. 俺の村がレギ許さんぞ巨人族めくさくさこれは一体何事だベルンドただならぬ様子と聞き駆けつけてみればこれは一体攻撃だ巨人族のそんなバカなつまらん冗談はやめろ本当だ俺っちの村も襲われた事実だまさかそんな話を信じろというのかだがこの惨状は近くの村に警告してくれ村人を南の砦に逃がそうしかし巨人族はまた襲ってくるそれからでは遅い急いで南に避難するんだ南の砦で巨人族を防ぐバラバラに戦っても殺されるだけだ力を合わせて戦おう分かった砦で会おう許さんぞ巨人族めレギ気持ちはわかるだが今は南に行こう俺は砦には行かん奴らは北から来ると言ったなならば俺は北へ行く巨人ども一人残らず殺してやるYet another example of why you should never try to console someone with the words, I know how you feel, but... Oh, and we're just short of 100 water crystals, damn it. Either way, now we're back on track for my alternating characters bit. So we're going to switch over to Freya, and we're going to switch him from the Great Sword to a hammer. Now I'm going to freeze frame this so I can properly explain everything. The top row where the G is, that's damage reduction. That means while you're attacking, it'll reduce some of the damage you take while you're doing that. The row below that with the 40, 80, 40, the first 40 is side-to-side damage. The 80 is damage when you're swinging downward, and the 40 is damage when you're swinging upward. The 15M, that's the range of the weapon. Right below that, the B is the effectiveness of the weapon's ability to guard. And the second row of numbers where it says 160, 300, 200, These are the listings for the strong attacks. The other one is for just the weak, quick attacks. So these are the ones that after you do a combo, you do one last special attack, and that's what these damage values are. Like before, the 160 is for side to side, the 300 is for downward strikes, and the 200 is for upward strikes. And then the rest is flavor text describing the weapon. Did everyone get all that? It's okay if you didn't, we're just going to go ahead and equip the weapon anyway. I actually don't like hammers in this game. I prefer great swords overall. But I still at least want to show off how they work. Now we're also going to equip a spear. Now the thing about spears is they're the melee weapon that has the longest attack range. I believe this one said 60 meters. I'll get more into how spears work when I pull one out for the next battle. Speaking of which, we should probably go ahead and do that. So, with Freya, we're going to the south, but with Frey, we're going to move to the north. As you can see, the stars, only one color is showing up for each, because you have to use a certain character for each of these missions. That's partially because in story and in cutscene, specific characters have to be in certain places. Well, if at any point someone out there had the question, can they actually see Frey and Freya? It's still kind of up in the air, but we know it is possible for them to see them. I don't know if it's one of those things where Frey and Freya decide when they want to be seen. But anyway, moving on to this mission. If the remaining length of the video isn't a hint in itself, this mission will not take particularly long. We're going to have to deal with tons of small giants, usually arranged around one large medium giant. And we're going to start off with the spear. And you use this by basically just thrusting toward the TV screen with the rear remote. I am actually aiming by pointing at the screen, which can make the spear kinda tricky to use. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite useful, and I'll explain why in a bit. This is how the hammer works. It is incredibly slow. But if you can manage to put enough space between you and your opponent... Oh, Jesus. I was not paying attention at all to the medium giant. But it's weapon lister now. We're going to take out the spear, and that is why the spear is so useful. It is very, very easy to decapitate those larger giants with a spear. And once you get the spear charged up and get the more powerful attack going, it has a piercing effect on it. So it'll go through multiple enemies that are in line with your attack. Really the biggest time waster in this mission is just traveling to all the different places that the giants spawn. Because they'll appear in like 4 different spots on the map, and they're all spaced almost as far away as possible from each other. So this is just more hammer combat. This might be one of the only times you see me use the hammer, because I am not a fan of how it works in this game. The damage trade-off compared to, like, just how slow it is, usually isn't... Oh, wow, that guy went flying. Usually isn't enough for me to justify using it on a regular basis, except to just show off whenever I get a new hammer. Now, if anyone's curious, the spawns, or most of them at least, usually aren't on a timer. They're typically triggered when you finish dealing with one mob. Like, the last giant died there, and now we have more that appeared on the radar. Now, there are some that operate that way, or have dialogue flags from the NPCs that you're walking around with. But here's something nice about the hammer, which is, because of the range of it, if there are environmental obstacles nearby that could get in your way, you'll pretty much just demolish them. Although, if you miss, or you swing in a direction you didn't want to, then that just means you're going to have a lot more time you'll have to wait to recover. Jesus. I wasn't trying to hit that one. I mean, I'm assuming my weapon is what made him go flying, but... Damn. This is another thing, too. The damage arc for the clubs and hammers of the medium giants have a pretty wide hitbox. So, you pretty much have to dodge to the side to avoid getting hit. Because I was up by its hand, which didn't actually touch me, and still wound up getting hit. And hopefully I can get the decap on this giant. I'm certainly getting plenty of headshots with this. There you go. There's the frost crystals. Okay, we've still got some stragglers, but I'm not particularly worried about those, so I'm gonna try and gather up some more of these crystals. This is the last little mob for this stage. So I just have one small giant left and this medium giant left. Jeez, dude. Don't stand that close to the giant. Okay, he's disarmed. And now he's disarmed. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. That's actually another thing too, is you can... Oh, I got the decap. You can cut off, like, the hand, and that'll give you some water crystals, and then you can cut off the arm, like, up near the shoulder. And that'll count as cutting off 2 limbs, so you'll get a couple extra water crystals out of it. You know what, I think you guys can handle the last giant. Hey, you know what, they actually could. They got him. Now, the dialogue flag is what ends this level. So, it should end pretty soon. There it goes. Now that should be enough frost crystals. Well, no, not frost crystals. Water crystals. That I'm over 100. Because we're getting to the point now where weapons are going to start asking for, well, that in particular. You've probably already seen a couple of them so far. Anyway, now we're going to change over to a Freya mission. And the nice thing about that is because it's a Freya mission, I don't necessarily have to go into the character menu and change. But next time on Zangeki no Reginleiv, we're heading to the deep south.